So what I think the very first thing I want to share with people is, before I get into how to triple your closings, is how not to triple your closings. And that's dealing with the 3 P's of success or failure in the real estate business. One of the first things I see people do is they spend the first 12 to 24 months doing non-income producing activities, way more than they do the income producing activities. What do I consider non-income producing? It's like prospecting. When you spend your time trying to figure out how to market, that's non-income producing. Um, then you have presentations, which are your sales, and that's basically your income producing. Do you have a closing strategy? Do you understand the Ben Franklin close or the assumptive close or any of these different techniques that most people who are in sales understand that most real estate agents aren't very familiar with? And then the paperwork. To me, that is just simply a distraction. Most people get caught up in this world of paperwork simply because they feel like the brokers are putting pressure on them to do exactly that. But from the way I see it, basically what you're doing is confusing motion with action. Never confuse motion with action. It's simply like being a hamster on that hamster wheel. You're doing a lot of work, but you're going absolutely nowhere. If you're doing something that's getting you traction and producing income, that's action and not just motion. So what exactly does that look like? Well, if you're trying not to triple your closings, and you're going to spend 45 to 47.5% of your time trying to learn how to do certain things like prospecting, always looking for the next best lead generation training. Honestly, that's someone who's really good at this can spend about 15 hours a week. If they're tech savvy, they understand algorithms, analytics, split testing, Facebook ad campaigns, Facebook ads manager, and can do data entry like a speed demon. Is that something you can do? Because if that's not you, then you're going to spend a whole lot more than that and get absolutely nowhere. Again, you're that hamster on the wheel, confusing motion with action. That is not something you want to spend your time doing. Another thing you got to think about when it comes to prospecting, using the old school lead generation techniques. This is what I call busy work. A lot of your brokers get you started doing this because they don't really have a method for teaching you. My checklists are transactional and instructional. They take you step by step, exactly the way I did when I was flying helicopters. You have to start the helicopter first before you started flying it. And then there's certain things you had to do along the way to make sure you made it to your destination. And it had to happen in a specific order. Unfortunately, when it comes to training with real estate and a lot of other things that aren't life-threatening, people just teach you what I call a shotgun blast. They throw out whatever they can think of, put it in a training format, and you never really understand what happens when or why. The way I lay out the checklist, you're absolutely going to understand exactly how to do it and what time frame to do it and why and where it should happen. But again, you don't want to use these old school lead generation techniques because they're just simply busy work today. You're going to end up, paying for more with those paid leads. You'll get nothing out of them. You can do the door knocking. You can talk to more people, call expireds. Typically, out of 100 expireds, you're going to end up maybe getting appointments with 3, and then maybe 1 will actually be available or not cancel on you. And then you can ask for referrals. These are all old school. They absolutely do work, but is that where you want to spend your time? Out trying to figure out how to get leads when there's all these advancements in technology that allow you to get leads by the hundreds. One of my lead techniques or lead getting or gathering generation techniques gets me over 500 leads a month. And it's something I can easily teach people. And I will definitely teach you on this master class. So if this is anyone you know who spends their time doing this, maybe you should invite them on this as well. Using the old school lead generation techniques is not something we want to spend most of our time with. So that gets to where I see people spending time with their presentations. They spend about 5 to 10% of their time meeting new clients. Well, 5 to 10% of your time meeting new clients isn't going to help you. The main reason people avoid doing these presentations is because they're afraid to fail. I call it stage fright. Worried that they won't be able to tell them everything they need to know. They won't be perfect, and the client will see inside their soul and not want to work with them. Is that anyone you know? And then the last thing, how not to triple your closings. By focusing on the paperwork, 45 to 47% of the time, believing you must do the paperwork and your broker puts pressure on you to do it to ensure you get paid. Unfortunately, doing paperwork over and over and over again isn't the way to get to be part of that 13% that are very successful in this business, or to triple your closings, let alone be a six-figure agent. Again, is this anyone you know? So how do you become, or how do you triple your closings? You have stage fright and you do it anyway. Know that you're going to meet people in the beginning that you don't or won't have a clue with. So what? It's only failing if you stop trying. Otherwise, you either succeed or you learn valuable lessons that help you with your future clients. I like to say, if you want to fail forward. And the way to do that gracefully is by selling your team and not your service. So if you're not experienced yet, then talk about what your broker's done and what your team has done and how you can offer services. And so you need to learn about those folks in this industry that can really help you out. And to become part of the 13%, I can simply tell you, spend 5 to 10% of your time prospecting, 80 to 90% of your time doing presentations, and maybe 5 to 10% of your time doing paperwork. When it comes to the prospecting, in the beginning, you may do a little bit more to create, or you may have to create a system, or simply just have someone else do it. I basically have someone else doing my marketing for me. And when it comes to the paperwork, you got to manage your time better by hiring a transaction coordinator. Since they only get paid when the transaction is done, that's not something you're going to have to worry about anyway. You might as well let them do it. I've had people talk to me about transaction coordinators and say simple things like, well, it's a very small deal, maybe an $80,000 deal. Well, I'm only going to get $2,400 after my broker takes a split. I get $1,600. I give them $4. That leaves me with $12. I'd rather just do it myself. Well, the simple question I have for anyone who thinks like that, is that the only deal you plan to do this year? Because if it is, then you're right. Keep that $400 for yourself. But if you're trying to be a six-figure agent or you're trying to triple your commissions, go ahead and get a transaction coordinator. So that's some of the main things I want to share with you when it comes to being one of those six-figure agents that can triple your closings. And this is just one of those methods I'm going to share with you on the masterclass coming up on November the 15th, Thursday at 7 p.m. So don't forget, you'll get 2 free instant downloads just for showing up on the master training and staying with me to the end. My free leads through Facebook checklist and my pocket listing strategy checklist. So again, I look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday, November 15th at 7 p.m. We'll see you then.